All right. So for our next step, we can just double click on page one. That should bring us to page one. What we want to start to do now is to give our text a little bit of breathing room. Um, so right here we have some uh, like headers that we'll probably want to change to be at least a little bit thicker, maybe center justification. We're going to want to probably change our font. So let's go ahead and we can double click in here so we have a cursor. And then if we put the cursor in front of photography and then hold shift and then click at the end of this paragraph, we can start right here. So let's say we want to change our font. So right up here in the top left corner, where it probably says Arial, we are going to click on this little down arrow. This will give you a little preview of what the fonts will kind of look like. You can choose whichever font you would like. Um, and once you pick a font, um, then you will notice that that paragraph changes to that font. Here is the size of that font. So right now it might come in at 11. So we might want to change that to at least 12. Over here we have our justifications. We have it's aligned to the left, which is pretty typical. Um, and then we are going to probably keep it that way. But again, you can kind of mess around with these. You can try to go where it's something like that. You might end up with more hyphenated words. But once you have the size and the way you want your font to look, then what we're going to do is we're going to reopen that paragraph styles. And this time we are going to open up, we're going to add a new paragraph style. And we're going to double click on this paragraph style one that appears. Something like this should appear. We're going to change the name. Um, so we could call it, we could even just call it paragraph text. And then right here is all of the things that will be based off of uh, your text that you have there. So you can just double check and make sure that this font matches and all of this matches what you chose. More than likely it will. One thing though you can keep in mind is this hyphenation. Uh, so we can even uncheck hyphenate. So then it wouldn't hyphenate if you didn't want any words to be hyphenated. It'll just move on. If it doesn't fit, it'll move on to the next line. And or you can mess around if you do want them to be hyphenated. You can mess around with how many letters and before and after the hyphen limit. I'm going to uncheck hyphenate. And I'm going to hit OK. Before I hit OK, let me just show you this other thing that can be handy, not necessarily for this, but if you were laying out a if you were laying out like a novel or something like that, you can start it. So if you had like a chapter 2, you could start it to where it would go on to the next page. Again, that's probably not going to be too useful for you right now with this one, but that's just a nice little feature that this program has. So then we're going to hit OK. So as you can see, I got rid of all my hyphenated words. So we're going to go with that. And then we are going to also, so then we are going to, now if we highlight our next paragraphs, so we can see right here, This comes in right there under the history of photography. We can come in right here, and then we can hold shift, highlight those paragraphs, and then we can click on paragraph text, and it'll automatically change our font and our size and all of that stuff. And then you can just kind of keep on going and doing that until you have all of your paragraph text uh, the way you want it. Now, one thing we'll notice if I go to the very last page, that little red plus is going to appear, but we will fix that when we get to it. So the next step I'm going to show you is these our headers, and then that way you can get that. You might want to do the headers first before you continue on with your paragraph text. Just that way it's easier to know which ones are the paragraphs. And then you can meet me at the next